Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Leadership Jam Session. Today's episode is part 2 of our tribute to 9/11. And with me today, I have 2 of the firefighters that were with me on 9/11. Bobby Walk is the retired deputy chief, and you were deputy chief at the time on 9/11, who was with us. Yes. And Joe Padula, who's also the captain, who's still active with the department as well. Welcome to the Jam Session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So when we got the word that we were going, we got the crew together, and the first staging area was on the Goethals Bridge. And as I shared in the previous episode, that the Goethals Bridge connects New Jersey to Staten Island. And here we are, as part of a task force, waiting for the rest of the task force to arrive. So just curious, because from there we went into the next staging area in Staten Island, but did anything stood out to you, just even being on that bridge?
Yeah, going over that bridge for the past 40 years was a very different sight with no traffic. And I think we were about number 6 in line.
Of the convoy?
Yeah. Right. And then as we were waiting, you just looked over your left shoulder and looking into the city and seeing nothing but that cloud.
Uh-huh.
So between the bridge being desolate and the cloud, it was eerie.
Yeah.
Eerie.
What impressed me was the number of engines and trucks and the squads that we took over there.
Yeah.
When we were up on a bridge just waiting for everybody to muster together. And then we just all took off in one big line.
And once it started rolling, it went over the bridge. Once we hit Staten Island, you looked behind us and it just kept going.
Yeah. All you saw was just
lights and engines and ambulances. It was crazy.
Yeah. And then we got to the next staging area, which was in Staten Island. That was the next staging. And it was, I believe, the dispatch center for New York City.
Yes, Staten Island.
Yeah, which was kind of like a bunker.
Yep.
Is that right, Chief?
Yep, as I remember it correctly. It's not marked or anything for purposes so they're not attacked or anything like that.
I remember we got there. I think was the National Guard already there? I thought for some reason, I remember the military being there. We were walking in.
There was military presence. I don't know who they were, but.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I was looking for gasoline.
He was looking for gas. Yeah. Well, that was the first challenge we hit with right? Because, Chief, you came with your own car. You followed us.
Yes.
But didn't have enough gas.
Fuel.
Yeah, for the duration.
Yes.
So wait a minute. Did you stay with us at the dispatch center, at the staging area? Because when we got our assignment, I remember the chief called me on the radio and I had to go up to the command post, and that's where we got our assignment. Were you with us at that point?
No, I had the chief's car,
right,
deputy chief's car, and I was looking for a gas station.
Ah, all right. So you were out trying to. We were going to meet up with you. I think we met up at the firehouse, didn't we?
No. I went and got gas. On my way back, there was 2 New York firemen sitting on the front porch of their house with their gear in their hand, ready to go. And they said, they stopped me. They came out and they waved me down. And they said, listen, can you get us to the dispatcher? That's where we want to go. So I said, yeah. So they threw their bunker gear in a car. I picked the 2 of them up and we went back to dispatch.
I remember they gave us the assignment and thank God that they at least assigned us an area that was very suitable to our environment, right? I mean, so, because here we are going over into New York, not knowing where we're going to go, but fortunately being assigned to cover calls in Staten Island basically resembled our own kind of backyard. And hopefully
right.
I didn't offend anybody in Staten Island. I'm not saying that Staten Island is like New Jersey, but in terms of what we're used to responding to,
right.
It was very similar,
yeah.
The area. Is that fair?
Yeah. 1-story houses, 2-story, 2.5, 2-story
right.
buildings. no high rises as far as I know.
Not like New York City.
No, not like
Yeah.
the city. No.
Right. So fortunately, they put us at least in an area that we felt somewhat comfortable. But
True.
so they gave us the assignment, and we rode out of so the firehouse that we rode out of was 164.
Engine
Engine
164.
164. That's where we were stationed.
Drumgoole
Ladder
Avenue.
84.
What's that?
Drumgoole Avenue.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we arrived there, and the firehouse was empty. There was no rigs,
Nope.
no ladder company.
And no people.
Right. We got there, and there was like only I think like 2 people there.
That was it. And then, we asked, where, is there any liaison here? Any escorts? And they were looking around saying not yet. I said, okay. Not knowing when we were going to get anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then guys started rolling in, off-duty guys who were
Yes.
coming in, who were stationed were assigned at that firehouse, coming
Right.
in off-duty.
Right.
And little by little, more guys started showing up, but we were it for a while.
Yes. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, that was they were doing a shift change at that time,
They were.
and so a lot of those guys, both shifts, went over to the towers.
Yeah.
So there was really a lot of guys from one company that were gone over there.
Yeah, that's the reason why so many more perished was because of that shift change.
Yep.
Both shifts went in
Yeah.
many of those firehouses.
Yeah.
I do remember, one of the things that I remember the most, and I remember sitting on the Goethals Bridge, that was one moment, looking at the city that I couldn't see.
Mm.
The second thing I remember was as we were in that firehouse, right, waiting for more people to show up, just more people to give us direction on where we were going. I do remember standing there, and 2 older guys came running in, and one of them, they started grabbing gear. Fire department, FDNY had all the gear on the wall.
Right.
Started grabbing gear, and one of them looked at me, and again, our gear was basically the exact same gear as New York City. So if you didn't recognize the lettering, you would think we were New York City firemen.
Right.
One of them looked at me and said, "Sorry, Cap, but we're grabbing this gear. We're retired FDNY guys."
I remember that.
You remember that?
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
they said both of our boys were working today,
I
and-
do remember that.
and they're down there. They went in the first wave, and we're gonna go down and look for them.
I do remember that.
Yeah, that's right. I think we were standing together.
Yeah, we were trying to figure things out.
Right. And that was like the one moment there. I mean, it was heart-wrenching just hearing them say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And that's kind of like the first thing that, I realized the gravity of the situation as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. Like I say, once they left, I think we got one of our escorts came, and then the first thing we started talking about was how do we hook up
to the hydrant.
hydrants? How do we get water if needed? And boy, you want to talk about mismatched
Right. Because we didn't have the same
equipment, hose threads.
Right.
Yep.
Right. But do you remember using a spring-loaded?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Well,
Just
I
on
don't
a
know.
2.5, but otherwise.
no on a hydrant. The big one for the hydrant.
Oh, I don't remember that.
I don't know, Bob. I walked out at one point, and Joe had like just adapters all over the street,
I know.
like trying to figure
Yeah.
out how are we
How
going
we
to
gonna
hook
hook
up
up,
to a
right?
hydrant?
Because the thread wasn't the same.
That's what he did. He brought out this. I don't know.
Everything we had.
It was a box. Said, all right, let's see what
Yeah.
fits, what couples.
It was you and the drive. So the escort that finally showed up was another ladder company from New York.
Right.
And I think they were from a different part of Staten Island. I'm not. It wasn't Ladder 84, was it?
No, that's the house.
Right.
But no, it wasn't.
It was a different ladder company that came, I think, from Staten Island, and they were our escort. They were with us the entire time,
Right.
the next day.
Right.
And I think the driver of the ladder truck from New York City was working with you guys. Were trying to figure out how to hook up.
Right.
Right. Because we would have wound up had to pump into him.
Yeah, right. In the event that, and again, these are like the little things that a lot of people don't realize that went on behind the scenes. Just trying to figure it out as we go along.
We knew, well, we did know that we didn't have the same, threads and whatnot.
Right.
So we knew that going in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So just to give, for those of you out there that may not understand, since we went over in the fire engine, we're the ones that would hook up to the hydrants and start stretching hose, or we would also hook up to the ladder truck if we needed to get them water. And so we had to figure out how to hook up to the hydrant and how to hook up to their ladder truck, because it was all different fittings.
Meaning, you like say,
Well, the main thing was the hydrant, because if we couldn't get water out of the hydrant, we couldn't feed that ladder truck.
right.
Or fight any fire.
Or fight a fire, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But we did figure it out.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
We did. It took a little while, but we got everything together.
And then a call came in.
Yeah, there's the next step.
The refrigerator fire?
Was that the first one we went on?
I think so.
It might have, because so I think the first call that came over
Yes.
was a report of a fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a refrigerator.
And we had
In
to
an
hop on.
apartment.
Yeah. We hopped on and I remember, so we're on our way. We're following the ladder company from New York.
Yeah. Trying to follow.
Joe's like blowing through red lights. I'm yelling. I'm like, Joe, you're going to kill us. He's like, I'm trying to keep up with them.
Him, right?
I can't even keep up with them.
No less the red lights. Trying to make the turns. Remember, I had to back up a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
That one turn, I would have took out 3 cars. I had to, and then they're 4 blocks down the road.
Right. They're narrow streets over there in Staten Island.
People
They're flying.
Yeah.
and they were gone. They were gone. That was amazing.
Yeah.
And I remember the either it was a battalion chief come up to me and he said, "You stick with me. You're my right hand." Okay. He says, "You can talk to your guys because our frequencies on the radios were different." So he said, "You stick with me. You talk to your guys. If I need something, I'm going to tell you. You tell your guys, and back and forth." And that's the way we worked it.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah, because the communications was the big problem.
Right. Everything was different.
Yep. Yep. There's no same frequencies, no less. They didn't want anybody on the air with what, obviously.
I do remember we pulled up to that scene and we get out of the rig and all of a sudden people just started coming out of their houses and taking pictures and because they're like, who are these guys? Because clearly we weren't New York City and here we are.
Here comes the fire department and they had one New York truck and then they saw this other thing. They say, who are you guys?
Kenilworth, New Jersey. Where you guys lost?
Well, I remember when we were back at the firehouse, an older gentleman came up to me, he's ex-firefighter, New York, and he asked me where we were from, and I said Kenilworth, New Jersey. I said we were Kenilworth Volunteer Fire Department. He says, "You're volunteers, and you came over here for us?"
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, yeah.
It is interesting. We wondered how would we be received, right? Because again, New York City, best of the best fire departments.
Yep.
No town has ever stepped foot in their firehouses, and how would we be received coming in there?
Right.
And from the moment we got there, they could not have been any more gracious.
Oh
Right.
my God. We were part of their department at the time.
It was as if we were part of their brotherhood. I mean, there was
Exactly.
whatever we needed. I remember when we got there, right after we realized we went on the call, came back, we realized we were there we're going to be there for. We didn't have any of our shoes with us.
That's right. We all
Right?
wore our boots.
We put our bunker gear on.
Yep.
And all our shoes were back at our firehouse, back in Kenilworth. And one of the firemen from New York City came up to us like, "You guys want to take your stuff off? You're going to be here for a long time." And we were like, "Well, we don't have any shoes." And in a matter of minutes, you remember, there was a pile of shoes in the apron of the firehouse for us. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I had my shoes.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, well, you had your own car, so it's a little bit of a different. Yeah,
I had mine too.
you had yours too.
Yeah, because I drove.
Oh yeah. Well.
I threw my stuff in the back.
Yeah. Well, the rest of us didn't
I
have
know.
shoes. Yeah. I do remember though. The one, I think it was the driver of that ladder company. I remember when you guys were still trying to figure out the hose couplings and everything. You had on a PBA shirt. You didn't have on a fire department shirt. You had a police shirt on. And I don't know if you remember this. He came up to you because, again, there's always healthy rivalry between police and firemen.
Yeah.
More so in New York City.
Yeah.
And he came walking up to you with a fire department shirt, T-shirt in his hand, saying, "I can't take it anymore."
And he gave me the shirt.
Gave you the shirt. He
Yeah.
said, "You got to take that shirt off."
Yeah. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing about, if for those of you out there, if you don't know any firefighters, have relatives of firefighters, the one thing about what happens behind the scenes, behind the walls of a firehouse, it's almost, you have a bunch of men and women that kind of never grew up. There's a lot of joking around that goes on. And part of it is almost, you need that in order to deal with what you see on a day-to-day basis.
Yep,
and
yep.
there was a little bit of that went on that day. I mean, it was a roller coaster of emotions throughout the day and night.
Yes.
Just when we did get back from that one call and we figured out everything, we did have a minute or two to sit down and sit in front of the TV and
right.
see what's going on, along with a couple of firemen that were from the city. And, our hearts were as heavy as theirs. And, they say you wanted to be there, but we were there in spirit, but then taking care of what they couldn't at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember when we came back, right, everybody was just kind of taking a break, taking a breath, trying to catch our breaths. I sat there with the officer of the ladder company from New York City. That was our escort. He was a lieutenant. I remember this. We're sitting in the kitchen because, as we're trying to figure stuff out and realized even on that call, there were some challenges, even with the radios. He looked at me and he said, "Listen," he goes, "it's your call, Cap, but if you want, we can split our guys up. I can put some of my guys on your rig. You can put some of yours on mine."
Right.
And he says, "But it's your call." And I sat back. I was like, "How is it my call?" We're here to help out. I mean,
Right.
It's all about the rank, but still, like,
It's your city. It's
your city. But it's your call. What do you want to do? And I'm not even sure if you guys were aware of that. I was sitting there trying to figure this out, and finally, I made a decision. I was like, we're already under so much stress. To then even split us up, I just didn't feel comfortable with that. And I just told him, you know what? I don't want to split us up. Let's just, and even if I did, you could have overruled me. I mean, but again, I just didn't feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah, more or less.
Oh, you were right. You were right, I think.
Yeah, more or less, like say with the truck company, they do search and rescue and then go to the roof. They know.
They work different than we do.
Exactly.
So they do it every day.
Right. More or less.
We basically do the same thing, but,
Right.
they're assigned certain things to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They have a list on the wall when you go in the firehouse.
Right.
This guy does the irons, this guy does the roof, this guy does ventilations, this
Right.
guy does search and rescue. And you'd have to break that all up somehow.
On top of which, the team I picked was picking guys who were our best engine.
Workers.
Our best workers for the fire engine, not
Correct.
the truck.
Right.
Right.
And so that
Right.
was also,
Yeah.
we didn't necessarily have some of the right guys to split up who were our better roof guys.
Right. And like I say, more or less, being an engine company, you put the fire out,
Yeah.
So we had, as you say, you picked the guys to do that.
I remember sitting out in front, me and Alan. He's no longer with us.
Yeah.
And we were sitting out in front on a bench in front of the firehouse. And I was telling Rob yesterday on the phone, all of a sudden we're sitting there and this big shadow comes over the top of us. And then it whizzed right by us. And it was a fighter jet, went over the top of us. And we just looked at each other and I said, holy crap, what's going on now? And then after that, 2 helicopters came after him.
Right.
And we just looked at her and it was like, you felt it, especially when the jet went over.
Yeah.
You could feel it in your chest.
Yep.
But it was like, oh my God.
Yep.
You know, we could see it. We could see the bottom of the thing. It was that low. The plane.
It came in. That was another eerie thing. Going over, and about that time, most of any aircraft was landed.
Right.
And you saw nothing in the sky. So if you heard something coming, it wasn't a commercial airliner.
Oh.
It was military coming.
Mm-hmm.
That was eerie.
It was.
And there was so much unknown that day, and so much.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we were constantly, like, they weren't sure. I think the plan was, from the beginning, they thought they were going to move us down to ground zero. Do you remember, like, there was a constant, like, all right, guys, Kenilworth, looks like you're heading down. And then they were like, nope, stand down.
Yeah.
There was like 3 or 4 times in the middle of the night, a couple times. Not that we really slept.
Yeah.
But there was a couple times where I remember them saying, you know what, Kenilworth, we think you guys might be heading down there.
Well, you guys were downstairs, so I don't know. I was upstairs.
Yeah.
Were you upstairs sleeping?
Yeah. Me and Kevin.
And the officers? That's right, you were upstairs, yeah.
Well, there wasn't enough room in that downstairs for all of us. So
Well, you guys
Kevin
got
went
better. You guys got better sleep than we did.
Yeah.
Those lights
we
just
didn't.
kept on going on
Oh,
and
yeah.
off, on.
We could hear the bells ringing. The bells were always ringing.
Well, when the bells rang downstairs, the lights went on.
Yeah.
So it was like,
That's right.
That's right.
you know, they rang and it was like,
Yeah, you're
And
right.
there were more guys, like, rolling in at night. I remember there was one
Yeah,
guy.
they were upstairs with us
Yeah,
Mhm.
guys just coming in.
because the the bell went off, and then I said to Kevin, I says, Kevin, we got to go. And the guy from New York says, no, that's one bell for the truck. And we were the engines.
oh, right. I remember that.
Me and Kevin stayed.
But didn't we go anyway?
Yes, we did, and they stayed. Yep.
We totally missed the engine.
No. Well, he says it's one bell for the truck. So we
That's
didn't think
right.
the engine was going.
That's right, we left.
Yep.
And I looked around, I'm like, wait a minute, we're missing somebody. Where's Kevin?
Yeah. Yep.
He was with me.
Yeah. Yeah, we were there like almost 2 days. We were there until the following night. At least 30 hours, something like that.
Okay.
In
Yeah.
fact, I remember because when we got back to the firehouse, it was almost night. It was almost like dinner time, I think, the following day, I think.
Yeah.
And that's when we found out that our spouses and family were all at the firehouse the night before on 9/11, trying to find out where we were because nobody knew.
Yes. Yeah. Nobody called anybody. Oh, you couldn't even call. That's right. At that point.
All the cell towers went out. They went out actually when we were on the Goethals Bridge. I do it because I was talking to my wife, and the line went dead. And all the cell coverage was out, and our radios weren't powerful enough to get back
Here.
to our headquarters here in New Jersey. So
Right.
no one knew where we were.
Where we wound up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And our families were there that night trying to find out where we were.
I knew where it was.
Oh, yeah. You were sleeping in the...
In a nice, comfortable bed upstairs.
right.
I wasn't comfortable.
I did, so just going back to how gracious they were and how well they treated us. One of the guys, the firemen who rode out of that firehouse off duty, who came in, because New York City had a recall of all their firefighters.
Right.
I think that might have been the first time in history too.
I
I think I might be wrong about that, but
no, I think that you
all
probably-
off-duty firemen had to report in. So
Right.
these guys were streaming in throughout the day and night. One of the firefighters was a chef from a tavern on the green. You remember?
Yep.
Now, Tavern on the Green, I don't think is open anymore. But back in the day, it was like one of the premier restaurants in New York City.
Absolutely.
And one of the firefighters happened to be one of the chefs
In that firehouse.
in that firehouse. And they had a garden
Across the street.
across the street from the firehouse.
Yep.
And he cooked us the most amazing meal
God.
I've ever had, just as a thank you for being there.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
I remember the dinner and then breakfast next morning. They were like,
Yeah.
and I've always heard that firefighters eat like champs, and man, they didn't disappoint.
No.
I remember in the morning, we didn't have no milk. There was no milk in the firehouse for the coffee. So I went out in my car, which had gas now, and I roamed Staten Island looking for milk, and nobody was getting deliveries because everything was closed down, all the bridges and everything. Nobody could get into Staten Island.
Right.
And I had to go to I don't know how many stores, and I was picking up those little ones like the kids
Yeah.
get in school.
Little cartons?
That's all they had left, and I was just buying as many as those to bring back to the firehouse. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. There was nothing coming in.
At that point, there was nobody on the road.
Yeah.
There was,
Empty.
the next 2 days, everybody was told to don't move.
It was a tough night as more firefighters were coming in.
That was the worst.
It was.
That was the worst for me because they were coming back from the towers, all full of soot and garbage and whatever. And one of the other guys says, how's rescue 4? Gone.
Yeah.
How's rescue 3? Gone.
Yeah, they knew at that point.
Everything was gone.
And when that guy asked, I remember looking at his face, and when that firefighter said "gone," you could just see the emotions in his face because there's so many relatives, right? Fathers, sons, and siblings that work together, and
Sure.
and not to mention he's just a brother to begin with, but so
They know
they're best
everybody.
friends,
Yeah.
And I remember him then looking at the guy saying, "Listen," he goes, I'm not sure, but they were definitely in the buildings, and it's just chaos down there, right?"
Yeah, they did.
It was hard being there, just with them, seeing all the emotions.
Yeah, especially when they were coming back. Some of the guys were coming back.
Yeah.
And the guys that
They had
were
no
with
equipment.
us-
They came back over on a ferry, and they were walking back to the firehouse.
And the guys that couldn't get over, felt helpless that they couldn't do anything. But at that point, it was really, unfortunately, nothing they could do.
Yeah.
That was the worst part. That night
That night was awful.
when the guys came back, when they were coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We maintained a relationship with them, with New York City, even after, because we would go back a lot to help out with the funerals.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
I think that's the other thing that most people don't realize, with the amount of equipment that they lost. Whatever equipment they had left, they needed for the firehouses and for all the funerals that were taking place.
Right.
By tradition, you have equipment there, as
Right.
well as 2 ladder trucks, right, with the ladders up in the air with the flag.
With the flag
So the procession goes underneath it,
and manpower.
and manpower.
I
Sure.
I think I made about 2 funerals.
I made a couple myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I made. But it takes a toll on you. There's only so many you can do.
Yeah.
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 Well, it was like every
Every
for
weekend.
a while there was every weekend.
We were going.
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday, sometimes two in a day,
Right.
morning and in the afternoon.
Yeah, that was
Just to make sure they got the proper.
send off that they deserved.
Right, the proper recognition.
And the amount of firefighters that showed up, I remember. I mean, just
From all over.
from all over.
All over.
Yes, all over the United States.
Yep.
All over the world, too. I
Yep.
remember.
Yep. Ireland.
So, I don't know how this happens but it just, whenever we do a funeral, we're standing there all lined up a sea of firefighters. Family comes in, they go into church, and then everyone, breaks. And for whatever reason, there's always like a bar close by. And we were in the bar, and this bar probably made more money that one day than all year. And I'm standing next to the bar is just packed with firefighters. Next to me are firefighters from Vancouver, Canada, that flew in. There were firefighters from all over the world that came in just to make sure all the fallen got their proper send-off.
Yeah. Just because it just wasn't a New York thing. It was a worldwide thing. Yeah. It happened in New York, but it was...
Yeah. It affected everybody.
That's for sure.
Which, as I stated in the previous episode, setting this up, it's not something that I or any of us talk much about. But, with the 20-year anniversary, felt like it was important to share our stories, even though the way we contributed in the grand scheme of things is insignificant to those that really pay the ultimate price. But it was important enough to share our stories just to help serve as a reminder out there for us to never forget. Right?
Yep,
just to never forget. That's the thing. What we did was minimal, but what the New York City went through was the ultimate.
Yeah.
And that's why we never forget.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you guys for sitting down. I appreciate you giving the time to share your stories with my audience.
You're welcome, Rob.
You're welcome.
I'm glad you did this.
Yeah, appreciate it.